If you're shopping for a home in Salt Lake County right now, someone is probably going to show you the same four suburbs that everyone always talks about. And some of them deserve the hype, but some of them have gotten so much attention in the last few years that the price tag does not match up with the hype. Today, we're going to fix that. 3 Salt Lake County neighborhoods that are overrated right now, and 3 that are quietly delivering more value and livability than almost anyone is acknowledging. No sales pitch, just an honest breakdown so that you can make the right call for your situation. Let's start with Herriman. A decade ago, Herriman was the deal. I personally bought my home in Herriman about 7 years ago. There was new construction, massive lots, mountain views on all sides, and prices that made the rest of Salt Lake County seem wildly overbuilt. Word got out fast, and that's exactly what the problem is right now. Herriman has absorbed some enormous growth, and unfortunately, the infrastructure has not kept up pace with the people. The road network funnels tens of thousands of people into a limited number of routes, heading north toward the valley. And during peak hours, the math becomes painfully obvious. If your commute takes you north to Salt Lake City, or even into the middle of the valley, you could be adding 20 to 35 minutes each way, above what the mileage would suggest. And the pricing, that discount that originally made Herriman so compelling, has largely closed. You're now paying prices that largely resemble Riverton or even South Jordan, which have meaningfully better access and a much more established commercial infrastructure. Herriman still doesn't have the retail density to match its population size. For day-to-day errands, you're often having to drive elsewhere. And unfortunately, I'm afraid it's just getting worse. With new plans such as the Olympia Hills development, they're adding thousands and thousands of people to the community without the established infrastructure in place to begin with. They're going to run into more issues with roads, tax base, commercial infrastructure, schools, among other things, if they don't get moving fast. Here's who Herriman still works for: fully remote workers who want new construction, bigger lots, and mountain views without paying east side prices. That profile is real, but the trade-off is legitimate. But if you're commuting to Salt Lake City or anywhere in the valley really, and you're comparing Herriman to alternatives in the same price category, the math unfortunately has shifted against it. And that's why I'm putting it on the overrated list. As much as I love Herriman and we've enjoyed living here, the downsides have become more apparent as time has went on. Now let's flip it, because the next one surprises almost every out-of-state client that I work with, and it's Murray. Murray sits right in the geographic center of Salt Lake Valley. I-15 access, TRAX access, proximity to I-215, and it gets almost no attention from buyers who aren't already familiar with the area. So here's what Murray actually gives you. You are 15 to 20 minutes from downtown Salt Lake City, and that's without even touching the freeway if you don't want to. The TRAX red and yellow lines both serve Murray, which means a car optional commute is genuinely on the table, and something almost no other suburban location in the county can offer at this price tier. Fashion Place Mall sits within the city limits. The hospital corridor along 5300 South is one of the most stable job centers in the entire valley. And the price per square foot for a well-located Murray home is still meaningfully below comparable square footage in Millcreek, Cottonwood Heights, or South Jordan. The knock on Murray, and I'll give it to you straight, it's that it's not a uniform suburb. The quality of blocks varies more than it does in newer master plan communities. You'll need to be specific about which pocket that you're in. The homes there are also on the older side, with newer homes harder to come by. Murray is a suburb that commuters, healthcare workers, and hybrid employees keep discovering after they've already looked everywhere else. And it deserves to be in the conversation of underrated cities from the start. Alright, another overrated city, it is Draper. And this one will get some pushback, but that's perfectly fine. Draper has been the prestige address for the south end of Salt Lake County for years. The views are legitimately incredible. The new developments up in the East Bench area are beautiful. And if you work in the tech corridor along the point of the mountain, there's a version of Draper that would make complete sense. But here's the honest reality for everyone else. Draper's pricing has now climbed to a level where you are paying a premium that was justified by scarcity 5 years ago, but is increasingly difficult to defend once you look at comparable homes in other places of the valley. The closer you get to the I-15 corridor in Draper, the more you're paying Sandy for Sandy adjacent infrastructure, but without the same central access to the rest of the valley. And the further east that you go towards the foothills where the views justify the price, the more that you discover the road servicing those areas was not designed for the density that has moved in. The elevation and topography that creates those incredible views also means that in the winter, you're navigating some icy canyon roads that flat valley buyers don't have to deal with. And that's not a deal breaker, but it's also not in any of the listing photos. Now, Draper still makes sense for specific buyers, particularly anyone that's tied to employment in the point of the mountain area. For everyone else, the prestige price is outrunning the practical case. Now, here's an underrated city that should get more attention than it does, and that's Cottonwood Heights. It sits up against the East Bench, right at the mouth of Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon. It's an established suburb, mostly 70s and 80s housing stock, mature landscaping, and 2 world-class ski resorts that people literally relocate to Utah for, and then spend just 40 minutes driving to from where they actually buy. In Cottonwood Heights, that drive is only 15 to 20 minutes on a normal ski day. On a powder day, when everyone else is sitting in traffic on Wasatch Boulevard, the geographical advantage from living at the base of those canyons is not theoretical. It's gonna be hours of your life back every winter. The commute to downtown Salt Lake City is competitive too. You're only 20 to 25 minutes depending on where in the city you're actually headed. The school district has historically been one of the most respected in the county, and the price per square foot for established homes is still genuine value relative to the access that you're purchasing. Yes, the housing is older. If new construction is a hard requirement, then Cottonwood Heights is probably not your suburb. But for the buyer who values access to the outdoors, a real commute to the city, and mature neighborhood character, and doesn't need anything brand new to feel at home, Cottonwood Heights is dramatically underpriced compared to what it delivers. Alright, here's another one that's overrated. We're gonna talk about Daybreak in South Jordan. And look, as a master plan community, the execution has been genuinely impressive. Walkable neighborhoods, a man-made lake, trails, intentional design. It's a real achievement in suburban planning. But here's the issue. Daybreak's reputation has outrun its commute reality. People see the walkability and design and the amenity package, and they automatically assume that the rest of the location math pencils out. It often doesn't. South Jordan is at the far southwest corner of the Salt Lake Valley, and if your job is anywhere north of Midvale, you're adding real drive time to your daily life. Now, Trax extends into the Daybreak area, which is a genuine asset, but depending on where you actually work, that transit option may or may not be a benefit to you. The bigger issue is the price. Daybreak has priced up significantly. And when you compare what you're paying per square foot compared to newer construction in more central areas of the valley, the premium feels increasingly difficult to justify on fundamentals alone. It's almost like you're paying for the brand at this point. For buyers who truly value the walkable community design and who will actually use the trail system and the lakes, that brand may be worth it. For buyers who discovered Daybreak in a relocation video and are comparing sticker prices without mapping out their daily commute, the premium warrants a much harder look. All right, number 3 on the underrated list. It's the last one, and I'll defend this without hesitation. It is Millcreek. Millcreek became its own city in 2016. And it still feels like one of the best kept secrets in Salt Lake County. It sits on the central east side of the valley, tucked between Sugar House and Holiday, and it punches well above its price point in almost every category that applies to daily life. Canyon access is the headline. Millcreek Canyon is right there, literally minutes from most neighborhoods. And that's not just a marketing line. That's a trailhead that you use before work on a Tuesday morning. Big Cottonwood is a 20-minute drive. The commute to downtown Salt Lake City is 15-20 minutes by car. And there are even cycling-friendly routes for those that are willing to use them. Now, the housing is older, mostly mid-century ramblers and split-level homes, but the lots have decades of tree maturity that new construction communities just can't offer. And there's been a thoughtful and genuine infill movement along the main commercial corridor. Coffee shops, independent restaurants, walkable retail, without bulldozing the established residential character that made the neighborhood worth living in. Price per square foot in Millcreek is still a real value compared to places like Sugar House, Holiday, or the East Bench neighborhoods that it borders. And that gap exists precisely because Millcreek doesn't have a glossy brand identity that other areas do. It's just a genuinely excellent place to live that hasn't fully been discovered yet. If you value access, mature trees, canyon proximity, and neighborhoods with character, and you can work with a home that's a little bit on the older side, Millcreek deserves to be at the top of your list. Okay, quick recap. Overrated in Salt Lake County right now, Herriman for the infrastructure gap and the price convergence, Draper for the premium that's outpaced the practical case, and Daybreak for the gap between the lifestyle brand and the commute reality for most buyers. Underrated, you have Murray for essential access and transit options that almost nobody talks about, Cottonwood Heights for canyon access and East Bench value, and then Millcreek for being the best combination of location, access, and neighborhood character relative to price anywhere in the county right now. These are opinions grounded in watching people make these decisions day after day. And your decision is different than everyone else's. What you value, where you work, trade-offs that you're willing to make. Use this as a starting point, not a conclusion. If you're trying to sort out exactly where you fit in Salt Lake County, drop your questions in the comments. I read them and I respond. And if you want a real conversation about your particular situation, I'll put all my contact info in the description below. I help people just like you every single week relocate or find the perfect home in Salt Lake County. Just let me know how I can help. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.